Sir, alphabetically also, you come on the top as far as the names of the panelists are concerned, sir. So we talked about this business continuity plan. We all have been talking about it, and the member non-life, Mrs. Alamelu, also talked about it, wherein they had requested the insurance companies to go and put this into place. Uh, can you just explain how business continuity plan and a business interruption insurance policy, sir, how are they different, or are they similar, sir?
So thank you for inviting me in this colloquium. It's my pleasure to really reach out to so many of you. Of course, business continuity or business interruption, this is quite appropriate in the current context which we exist. The risk awareness is high, and so hence the need to survive should be a part of the thinking everywhere. And I think both business continuity and business interruption is actually part of risk management. In some sense, it's something which is embedded. They are linked. But since I'm the first guy, maybe let me put a bit of a context. Business interruption, if you really see, was a consequence of how the fire laws evolved, during the 19th century. And eventually, with every kind of an incident, people would say, what is the consequential loss coming out of business interruption, and eventually loss of profit in certain parlances. So it is a concept which evolved with the evolution of insurance, starting with fire insurance. Business continuity, if you really see, is a wider topic. It actually started like as an extension of disaster management, and where people would say, how do you really manage everything and not just only a part of thing? And as the world started to imbibe computers and all, the concept or the nomenclature of business continuity was actually coined in 1970s. So structurally, business continuity, if you really see, is a larger concept which embeds so many things, and which would also include how to manage interruptions and the financial losses. It is basically putting every aspect of business into a plan and managing it in an organized way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main.
I'm sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. So please carry on.
No, I just wanted, and structurally, there are many times, business interruption insurance, because we are in insurance world, we always feel that it's important to understand. The important point of business interruption is generally it is linked with an insurable peril. And one of the questions which people would have heard in recent times is what happens if you don't have a loss of property and still you have, how is a pandemic creating a loss, and is this covered or not? So let me tell you, the traditional insurances have all gone behind, the loss to an insurable property, and then consequential interruption claims were paid.
Exactly.
Pandemic is in fact a telling point for many of us to now look at the intangible losses and really include in the scope of policies. I'm sure with this active discussions across the world, we will see some evolution and products emerging out of this.
Sir, what kind of a business continuity plan, and if I may say that if it doesn't breach the privacy or confidentiality issues, can you tell us the business continuity plan as to how you plan at Reliance, sir?
So let me be honest. Business continuity is a concept, which has to be believed by the top management. It is not something, of course, most of the regulatory prescriptions are in there now. You realize, the insurance regulator, banking regulator, or securities market, everybody prescribes. But often I have seen the depth, the real planning goes only if the top guys believe something like this could happen. So if you ask me, it is as much to do with awareness with consumers to do with as much, what management feels about it. That it can go wrong. Very often in the earlier environment, we used to feel management continuity in terms of key people. So what started business continuity, ye aadmi rahega, if this person is there or not. Thankfully, with the growth of digitization, automations and all, people have started to value processes. When processes and all came in, we said, okay, fine, we will look at if this office closes down, where do we work from? And, that led us to create, some environments in different geographies or different time zones, or different, networks, so that we could operate in that way. So I think, business continuity over the years have evolved, with every organization in our thinking also. And in insurance business in particular, one thing which we always feel is that our key product is actually claims.
Ah,
Live in that kind of a urgent scenario, wherein even if it is a COVID, you can't say that I'm not going to be there. The only good part about some of the digital architectures now is that you can operate out from anywhere. And that could even be your home, it could even be another city, it could even be, anywhere, anytime kind of a thing. So in Reliance, we had looked at, anywhere, anytime, work environment for quite a few years. I must also admit that it started with the concept of also optimizing our cost, resources, and everything. Eventually, today, we feel that architecture which we created has helped us to really go digital and really test business continuity in the truest sense.
mhm.
Even when the COVID thing happened in early March, with a flip, the entire organization, all of us really went on work from home. And I think business continuity was tested in the truest sense. And I must tell you, most of our operating parameters have been better than what, we were achieving before. People are also reasonably happy that they could operate in a seamless way. And business continuity is only evolving in my view. The only thing I must also admit that the cyber risk has multiplied tremendously. And while we are delegating a lot of authority or a lot of opportunities to people or our partners or to consumers, the consequence of cyber is still one of the things which bothers us. And in an environment wherein we are expected to function normally, in an environment where social media to everything is very active, this is one part of business continuity which keeps on bothering us. And we are hence, to a certain extent, a bit worried about the consequence of this larger shift which we are looking at. So, business continuity is an objective in my company, which is owned by me. The assurance which we really put out to our stakeholder is something which we want for ourselves. And we know eventually this is going to be a business edge
Mhm.
in terms of our operating environment if we get it right.
Absolutely, sir. And in fact, when you talked about the role of the top management, sir, by any chance, do you see the role of a chief risk officer emerging out of this for an insurance company?
See, I think it's most important. Of course, I must say that chief risk officer is a mandated role in every insurance company. The insurance regulators were far-sighted to have specified this role, a few years back as a part of corporate governance.
Hmm.
And the chief risk officer has the primary dotted line reporting to the risk committee of the board.
Hmm.
In some sense, it's an independent, role, and it's a management level role which exists. The basic goal of the chief risk officer is basically to set up a suitable, robust, and a sustainable enterprise risk management framework, and basically which is aligned to the strategy of the corporate. And the second thing is to create a culture for risk understanding and ownership. This is something which you have to continuously engage, work with the people over there. So chief risk officer, if you ask me, is somebody who really does a lot of upside downside simulations, looks at the company, looks at the people, looks at the overall architecture beyond the operating environment. And this, I think, has emerged in various such crises like this, or even certain other crises like cyber and say, hacks and all, to be something which holds the organization together. And my thing is that this is a growing environment, and the chief risk officer plays a very forward-looking role. And hence, to a certain extent, this is becoming an imperative for any good organization.
Sir, Mr. Rakesh Jain, sir, 6th of January 2015, you addressed a meeting of your intermediaries in Delhi, one of the hotels on the Janpat, sir. Uh, I was lucky to be a part of that, even though I was not an intermediary at that time. And I still remember when I met you for the first time, your two key words emphasis was, one was technology, and the second you talked about was the employees, the people, so as to say, sir. Now, technology I've seen, of course, in the last 4 or 5 years, the growth chart is absolutely clear, not only to me but to the others as well, sir. Sir, from the perspective of the people, the employees, which Tapan sir was talking about, uh, you maintain a very low profile, sir, as an organization. Can you tell us why?
I don't understand your question fully. So I don't know profile or low profile. I think what's important is there is a big bang event which is taking place, and people need to discover their own thinking before they reach out, before they talk. So in some sense, Tapan laid down what he felt important for his employee. He did something. I personally feel that all of us have their own way of interacting and communicating, and one should be true to himself. Personally, I felt that COVID was a event which nobody anticipated. So there was always an assessment phase which happened with all of us, starting with the world coming to us, and most of us lived initially with a thought process that this is a temporary phase. So most of us really communicated in a way to say, look, go away from the active thing, go back to your home, stay inside, do your normal stuff. Even if for the few days you don't do it, is fine. So it was a bit like you're demonstrating resilience, you are demonstrating as if you can be away from things. It is only in the after a month or two, from June, July onwards, that people started to believe that this is longish and this is where we'll have to turn around. So to my way of looking at things is, you have to be appropriate to the context, because people are now getting flooded with so many things, information. Whatever you say as a leader also gets cross-checked with five more other leaders.
Correct.
It is
Absolutely.
important for us to believe that we are not the sole voice to be followed and heard. And I feel that many of the times you leave a thought with a person and let him really get over it. So, I don't understand, too much of communication or too little communication. I believe in effective communication. I think for our people, we have always said, you come first. It's important that we meet our objectives, but at the same time, we are in such a business that we can't also stay away from consumers. So the
I
digital
understand.
adoption technology, what you mentioned, is something which has stayed with me. Frankly, technology was a way to make over the organization. 9 years back when I joined Reliance General Insurance, I thought that will be a distinguishing, factor for us. I would say today that is indeed a distinguishing factor. This apart, I guess the mindset of our people to use technology has added to it.
Correct,
And
sir.
that is why, most of us are now dealing through technology with people. I don't know if any of you know, the tagline of Reliance General Insurance is Live Smart. And this is a tagline we adopted, about 6 years back. And now when we say Live Smart, what we have, in the COVID, now we are saying, now we have to be dealing with tech with heart.
I got it, sir.
On one side, we'll use technology, but at the same time, heart is because we can't walk away from our human values, from our insurance principles. But it's going to be like that. So this is all what we have been communicating. I hope it is effective communication more than, less or more.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, because I felt that I was sort of intruding into your personal space at that point as such, sir. But coming back more specifically, sir, Tapan sir talked about the lack of reinsurance support when it came to the COVID policies as such, sir. One of our listeners and viewers, Mr. Bharadwaj, Nikhil Bharadwaj, has inquired about the effectiveness of the proposed pandemic pool as such, sir. Sir, what are your views on that, sir?
See, I think pandemic pool is becoming a necessity. I'm happy that different stakeholders are coming. A pool like our structure cannot be created by few. Even the resources of an insurance companies or even reinsurance companies may not be adequate if you get into this kind of situation again and again. And in some sense, in India, we can say we are still not as deeply impacted because the penetration of insurance is low. But tomorrow, as with the penetration grows, as economic assets grow, I think it's important that the pandemic pool gets created in a manner which is sustainable, self-fulfilling. So I think the proposals which are coming directionally looks all right. Now it is for everybody to contribute, including the government, which will always be a large stakeholder. I personally feel that this is not a one-time thing. The nature of risks are also going to vary. We should identify pandemic not like only a flu or a COVID. We should also see how do we build, cyber as a part of also a pandemic approach, because that is something which my feel is again in a globally interconnected environment, we could have significant ramifications. So it is a starting point. I feel that we are in a right direction. There is a need of the hour. But at the same time, there has to be a lot of things at the grounds up level which needs to happen first. We need to include more and more people on basic insurances. You see, I think we cannot create business model out of catastrophes. We
I
need
got your point, sir. I got
we
your point.
regular subscription of insurance, and that is why India has got to have a dual journey towards the insurance evolution. But communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases, we never thought that we could have this kind of a thing emerging. So I think looking at the things which are in front of us, I think we have to hasten up so many things now in the next maybe 5 years or so.
If I can conclude from whatever you talked about on the business continuity plan, we are basically talking about three key elements, sir. One is resilience, of course. The second is recovery. And the third is the contingencies that we talk about, sir.
No, I think it's appropriate to know the risks, maybe anticipate the risk and to overcome the risk. And I personally feel it is in the interest of insurance companies, because insurance as a business is all about risk. And it's also a function of capital. In some sense, insurance business can dramatically go wrong when people can miss either on understanding of risk or on right capitalization. Having said that, we serve policyholders, we have fiduciary responsibilities, so we also need to plan the things well. We also need to, really have a recovery in the sense of our business objectives with a goal of serving somebody else. It is not just about you and yourself, your money going down and you suffering a loss. Creating a huge challenge in the entire ecosystem. At Reliance General Insurance, while we are the still a small company with about 4% market share, we cover over 2 crore people in various ways and means. So this kind of responsibility does put a lot of onus on us. So I think business continuity needs to have all the three factors to be anticipated. And as I said earlier, this is something which is a management topic. It is something which bothers me as a CEO and is a part of my survival plan for years to come.